Hey, this is Sperry, and today I'm actually coming back to you with a rant. Believe it or not, we are actually talking about Toontown again, and we're doing an actual rant, so that's great, isn't it? Well, anyways, this rant is going to be on the topic of why I believe that there will always be a sufficient amount of grinding in TTR, why the people who run TTR will not drastically reduce the amount of grinding, as some have suggested, even though that would make many players happier. I believe there are reasons why that will never happen. Now, I do think that a lot of players might get more enjoyment out of the game if it was less grindy, but the entire game as a whole would probably have fewer players on at once and would not be as successful if the grinding was reduced, and I'm going to outline why I believe that is true. The reason for this is that a system that does not favor heavy grinding favors those who log on sparingly, log on for maybe 30 minutes a day, log on for maybe a couple hours at most a week, because it allows them to not put sufficient time into the game but still get enjoyment out of the game. It makes the game friendly to those who aren't super dedicated to playing the game. However, a grinding friendly system, in the sense where grinding is heavily encouraged and rewarded, that system benefits those who put in like 20 plus, 40 plus, 60 plus hours into the game a week. It really encourages and rewards playing the game in large sprees of time, being on all the time, playing the game all the time. And it's really good for the game's health and stability for that to be the way that the game is played, because believe it or not, the way that this game continues to run is by people putting in a ton of time playing the game and always being on. Like right now, 2,000 to 3,000 people is basically like the regular amount of people who are on TTR at once. And not all of them are hardcore grinders, but you can easily account for hundreds, probably at least 1,000 during the day, of those players being in the bracket of those who play several hours per day, if not more. And what that means is that these players will always continue to play the game as long as they have something to do, something to grind for. And the quicker that those individuals beat the game is the quicker that those individuals become burned out. Some will move on to second characters, which is great, but many won't. And what ends up happening is that in an MMO, just the way it's designed, lots of people love grinding. You look at almost every MMO, there are end game grinding options. World of Warcraft has them, Guild Wars 2 has them, Elder Scrolls Online has them. You almost cannot have a MMO without end game grinding options that just take so much time to beat that theoretically people will just keep doing it for almost forever. And the reason why they won't reduce the grind is because that could potentially result in people leaving the game quicker. And I'm sure it will, because I know there's lots of people, myself included, when I played the game. There's people who, I mean, I just know a ton of hardcore players throughout my time, because I was one at one point, and I'm kind of like somewhere in that realm right now, although I'm not going to be in about a week when I leave for college. But when you're a hardcore player and you beat the game, you get bored and you have to move on, even if you enjoy the game, because there's nothing to do. And the different walls for that are, for some people it's reaching 100 laugh, for some people it's maxing one suit they like, for some people it's maxing all their suits, and for other people it would be maxing, all their SOS cards, everything like that. So really, it varies person to person, but the quicker that each of those grinding elements is reached the ending of will be the quicker that people quit the game. And so that is why I do not believe that we are going to see, for example, a reduction from 23,300 stock options for the max options. I'm actually on that one right now, but I expect that one to always take 7 to 8 hours to do if we count getting the groups and getting stuck with bad players once in a while. But I expect that will always be the case for that promotion to take that long, because it encourages people to keep playing the game and not quit. Because if you've reached the point of grinding that far, like let's say you've reached max options, you've already put so much time into the game, it's extremely likely that you're just going to get that done eventually and not just quit on that. And it's really good for the creators for you to have that to work for and to have that to stay on the game, because at the end of the day, it's very important that people go on the game. And when you're looking at just numbers of who's actually playing the game, who's currently online, an individual who plays the game 40, 60 hours a week is much more important to the MMO creators than someone who plays 30 minutes a month. I'm just being real. So the reason why the grinding is the way it is to support those super hardcore players, support them in their endeavors, because it's really the only way to get a super dedicated fan base. The only reason that private servers exist for this game is because there has always been a super dedicated fan base that's played this game a ridiculous amount of time each week. If this game was something that people only played on average 20, 30 minutes a week, there's no way they would have ever made a private server for the game. I mean, it just wouldn't have happened. The reason why this game got a private server was because people played it in large sprees and played it addictively and constantly. And the reason for that is largely due to two things. It's due to the friendship and the community of friends that people have made, and it's also due to the grinding system that encourages you to play in sprees. So let's look at TTI for an example as well, because TTI significantly reduced the grind, and then once people kind of maxed out the grinds they cared about, maxed out their favorite bosses. I know from a fact because I was friends with a few people who were some of the biggest grinders on TTI. And once they beat everything, there was really nothing to do, because once you got everything done, there was just really, really a dearth in content, and it took under a month if you were a hardcore player to just flat out beat the game, beat everything. And then you were just done and you were dead. Nobody really wanted to play the game when they had nothing to grind for, especially the hardcore players. So yeah, I think unfortunately, well, I suppose it's a double-edged sword, but in reality, TTR, if they want the game to exist for at least, I don't know, 2 to 4 more years, they should not mess with the grinding system, because I think it very well could have unintended consequences of getting people to quit the game faster than they would otherwise. I think it's more of a subconscious thing. I don't think people are going to go, whoa, they reduced grinding, I'm quitting the game right now. I think it's going to be more of the long-term impact of not being able to just reel people in. I mean, it's the same idea. Wizard 101 has a very poor endgame grinding system, and you see very few people play that game for more than a few months straight. I know quite a few people who've played that game. I don't know a lot of people who've played that game for more than 4 months in a row, because once you've beaten everything on a wizard or two, there's really nothing to do unless you just want to literally do the same exact. I mean, the leveling process in that game just gets incredibly painful after a couple of tries through. So when there's no end game content of something to actually do that people can pass by and enjoy, you just quit the game. And that's the cost, that's the curse of so many MMOs. In World of Warcraft, there's only an end game grinding system for those who are super, super hardcore and love raiding. If you don't love raiding, it's the same idea, and people just get bored and quit. That happened on Warlords of Draenor. So we have a lot of examples of when messing with this system really hurts the creators in a bad way. So I'm not saying this because I think people will like it. I'm saying this because if the game wants to exist in any form where it's populated, you can get people to do things with, and the game is actually supported, there needs to be this grinding system that people have the nostalgia for, that people have proven they will actually accomplish and do. So many people will actually max this stuff. It's ridiculous. So that's the reason why, because it's just looking at the health of the game, looking at what individuals have already decided that they are willing to commit 8 hours of running around fighting cogs just to do one CEO, one CJ. That's already been established as something people are willing to do and not quit the game over. If people wanted a more casual game, they waited too long. The end game of this game is not nearly as casual as the rest of it. That's the way it's going to be, and that's the way it's going to have to stay if this game wants to remain populated, in my opinion. So that's pretty much my view on why I do not think grinding is going to be reduced. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and please subscribe to follow my Twitch. Check it out. We might have another stream today. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a nice day. See you guys tomorrow.